Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Empire State of Baseball. This is episode number 24, Monday, September 19th of the year 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you joining us here tonight, you might notice something a little different. We're down to a tripod from the initial quartet that we normally roll with. Rich, tell us about this great update we have this evening.
Yeah, I mean, it is a great update from however you take it. So good news, bad news when it comes down to the show. Yeah, Corey made mention of our empty seat here, or the one less screen. Tom Waspel had a baby girl today, welcoming a Yankee fan to the world. Congratulations, Tom. We want to send our best wishes to our old buddy, Mr. Waspel over there. And yeah, such a beautiful picture. And of course, Tom repping the Yankees interlocking NY. So that's the great news. That's the amazing news we have tonight. The bad news is Tom's got to go on paternity leave now from Empire State of Baseball to fulfill his duties as a full-time dad. So we don't know how long this leave will be. At some point, Tom is going to join us on the show down the line. But for now, it's going to be a tripod here at ESB. Just me being handicapped by two Met fans for the remainder of the season for now. So that's great. But congratulations to Tom and his wife, Allie.
Yep, of course. And some would actually say if he was a baseball player, oh, he could have timed it better. It's already September. He couldn't have waited another month to make it work. But no, congratulations, Tom. We'll definitely miss you on the show, but we're very happy for you and your new family.
Joe, you gonna miss the rants from you and Tom now?
I mean, it was all too easy to, get the upper hand on him. He gets so worked up so easily. He's, I'm just gonna miss the fact that when the Yankees get ousted in round one, I'm gonna be able to do a victory dance on Tom's metaphorical Yankee grave. But I do wish him
there it is
the best, and I hope his daughter is happy, healthy, and grows up to become a Mets fan. Just to stick it to
I mean, I know that's already a house divided when it comes to fandom, although Tom does claim that she is a Yankee fan from the get. I don't know how he judged it. I don't know if he just laid out two jerseys and she crawled to it. I don't know. She can't even crawl now at this rate. Maybe she just looked at it. But I don't know how he determined it, but apparently she is a Yankee fan coming into this earth. Congratulations, Tom and Allie. All right, so before we get into some Yankee baseball and some Aaron Judge in particular, just make sure to give us a subscribe on Twitch. Download the Twitch app and subscribe to Empire State of Baseball. Our Twitch link is located in our Twitter bio at ESB Podcast. So make sure if you joined us, great, thanks. Send that link to your friends to join us here on Twitch. And let's get into it, guys. The Bronx is burning. The Bronx is burning. And it's been a wild week for the Yankees. They ended up taking only one game out of three against the Brewers over the weekend. Prior to that, they swept the Red Sox at home. So the Yankees are starting to work back on the better trajectory. You don't like a series loss, but now they're facing the Pirates for 2, the Red Sox for 4. So you feel good going into those series, but you know the Red Sox are going to fight hard. But we're not going to talk about the Yankees as a team. Let's talk Aaron Judge. And we've talked Aaron Judge all year long, from the contract debates to the home run records to the MVP conversation. And on Instagram, if you go to our Instagram story, we did have a poll today, who should be the American League MVP. And up until about an hour ago, Aaron Judge still had the unanimous vote. Joe, Corey, I guess we'll start there because Judge here is on the brink of history. I mean, we could be looking at this week as Judge either tying or breaking or doing both the record in the American League. In a few words, how do we describe what Aaron Judge is doing here in 2022?
I mean, he's been absolutely out of this world. I mean, it just, there's no other way to say it. It pains me to say it, but at the same time, there's probably not a person who after 2017 thought that this wasn't a possibility for Aaron Judge. He has the most power in the game of baseball, at least from the sense that he can translate that ball to bat skill into power on a more regular basis than anybody in the games. We know Stanton can hit the ball a long way. We know Alonso can hit the ball a long way. And those guys just don't have that contact level that Judge does. So we knew this was available to him. We knew that this was a potential, that this was his ceiling that he could one day reach if he ever stayed healthy. And that was his problem in 18, 19, 20, and really up until last year, where it seemed like last year he finally got a almost full season in the books. And this year he's just never slowed down, and he's been fantastic. He's at 59 right now. I think he's going to break it. I think he ends up somewhere in the 63 to 64 range. He is going to win MVP, I feel like.
Well, yeah.
And it will end up begging the question, will this be the greatest performance in the history of walk years, let alone offensive years as a whole? You know, who knows what this is going to mean for him in free agency, but it's probably going to mean the moon. So I expect his price has just gone up and up and up. And I don't think there are going to be many teams that are not interested in signing him come the offseason.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something. And the one word that comes to my mind, I mean, it's just incredible. I mean, there's really no other way to put it. Talking about the walk year first, I mean, talk about a guy who took a bet on himself, a huge gamble, because God forbid if he were to get hurt, missed half the season for whatever reason, teams are going to seriously doubt giving him any sort of money. Considering his injury history, like Joe mentioned, 18, 19, 20, all missed significant time there. He took a gamble on himself and he hit big. I mean, this is the equivalent of, throwing down, your life savings on forget about a color in roulette, on a number in roulette, and he's going to hit it here. Absolutely incredible. And you look at the numbers across the board. First in home runs by a mile. First in RBIs. Second in batting average. And batting average, him and two other players, Bogarts and Reyes, all within a single point of each other in batting average. So you got a chance for a triple crown season here for Aaron Judge. I mean, the guy is going to get paid. Does he break the record this week? I think he can. I think he could break Roger Maris's record. And
for my sake, I hope he does. I'm going to the game on Thursday.
Yeah, I hope he does it for you. And I remember on an earlier show, some point, maybe in June, I forget the exact episode number, when Judge was putting up this amount of home runs. And at that point, it was still a debate. Does he have a shot at Maris? Does he have a shot at Bonds? And I think all of us could agree he's not going to get to the Bond 73. No. That's not going to happen in this short window. We're only got a few weeks left of the season here. But he's going to break Roger Maris possibly this week, possibly when Rich is there Thursday. I think it happens probably around the weekend. Maybe Thursday he ties it. Maybe one day over the weekend or early next week he breaks it for the new record over there. But, I mean, an incredible season. Then you talk about MVP. Is he the MVP? I mean, it's a no-doubter. He's the MVP. If anyone said no on our Instagram poll before, I mean, they're clearly doing a troll job.
And no one did. It was a unanimous vote.
Excellent.
Aaron Judge.
Very good. So I'm glad to hear that it still held 0 for any other people through this moment. Because I know about an hour ago, like you said, we were 100% Judge. I'm glad it still remains that way because in my opinion, it's really a no-doubter.
It's a no-doubter. I mean, this guy is on the brink of a triple crown, as you mentioned before. Arias and Bogarts are in that mix. I think Arias has that slight 1-point lead over Aaron Judge right now. It's arguably going to go down as the greatest single season by a New York Yankee in history. Look at all the great seasons in the past, especially breaks this Maris record. And I know we could talk about some of the years that Garrick has had and Ruth has had, and back in the day when they were hitting, average like 370. But Joe, I'll ask you, if Aaron Judge goes on and keeps the pace going, let's say he finishes up with mid to late 60s in home runs, 140 to 150 RBIs, and he is the batting average leader, wins the Triple Crown. Does this go down as the greatest single season by a Yankee?
No. I think he's got, you got to understand, when you talk about the greatest single seasons by Yankees, Ruth at one point had more than triple the amount of home runs that teams had on the year. I mean, Judge, don't get me wrong, Judge is having an all-time great season. But like 1921, for example, Ruth hit 59 and 168. He had a 378 average with a 512 on base percentage, and his OPS plus was 239. I mean, just out of this world numbers. Judge is having the best season offensively, but there were a couple seasons. I think Mickey Mantle had one where he was just out of this world himself. I think 1956, Mantle had 52, 130, hit 353, 464 on base percentage. It's trust me, it's nothing to shake a stick at. It's up there, probably going to be one of the top 3 or 4 Yankee seasons ever. I don't think you can go that far because I think Yankees have a handful of offensive seasons that can be considered the best offensive seasons of all time, between Mantle, Ruth, Gehrig. So I it would be hard pressed just from the home run number. I think you got a little bit of a gap when one player bats 370 and the other one's batting around 320, even though they both win batting titles. They're both very, very significant teams. But I think you'd still have to go with Ruth just because he outpaced the league. He was so far and above better than everybody else. And while Judge is very good, there's not that big of a gap between him and the next best hitters in the league.
Yeah.
Overall.
No, I agree with that. And if you want to look at it in the modern game, and I'm talking about modern game, let's say of our lifetimes.
Oh, okay.
I think of our lifetimes, we could say yes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think in our lifetimes, this is the best season for a Yankee. I mean, this is a guy who's really carried this team. I mean, he's light years above the next best Yankee on this current roster in terms of the stats that he's putting up. So definitely, in my opinion, of our lifetime, it's the best single season we've seen for a player. I agree with Joe, though. You probably got to go with Babe Ruth, just considering how much better he was than everyone around him. I think look at all the other players the Yankees have had over the years. I mean, Joe DiMaggio with the hit streak. To me, that's still such an incredible feat to get to that hit streak number right there. That's a record that probably will never be broken. And then you look at Mickey Mantle. I mean, going back to, 1956 when he won the Triple Crown?
Yep.
I still think that it's hard not to say that's also one of the best Yankee seasons. So definitely a good debate. I agree with Joe. It's not the best all time for the Yankees, but it is the best for our lifetime. And the fact that it's in the discussion for all time Yankees just shows you how great of a season it is.
I mean, we don't consider Maris's 61 season the best offensive season for a Yankee ever. He also hit 269 that season.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I think it has to go beyond home runs. And again, it's probably going to be in the top 5 when I think about it. DiMaggio hit 383 one year. Ruth hit 3 or 4 seasons with 50 plus home runs, including the season he hit 60. So you're right. It's up there. It's going to be in the conversation. But part of this and part of what Judge's legacy with the Yankees is going to be, no matter if he breaks this record, is does he stay in pinstripes next year?
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing to break a record, but if you break a record and you leave town after it, that leaves a bad taste in people's mouths. So Judge can kind of disappear from that Yankee legacy really quick if the Yankees are unable to re-sign him. I think that is a huge part of what this season is going to look like for Judge in the future. And for the Yankees, after he's gone through this year, this is his ceiling. I mean, he can't get any better than this. No. It's not that he won't play up to a level similar to this, but it's just not going to be possible to top this.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, but at the same time, he's the Yankee offense. The Yankees, without Judge in the lineup, you have nothing. He is everything to the Yankees this year. And that's why he has to be the MVP, because without him, they might not be a playoff team. That's how good he has been. He is winning by himself.
This is why I wasn't even going to bring up the American League MVP debate, because I don't think it's a debate at this point. I don't think it's a debate anymore when it comes down to these two, especially if Judge goes on and wins the Triple Crown, especially if that goes down.
Yeah.
And at this rate, no question about it. Without Aaron Judge, the Yankees are a middling third to fourth place team. Without Shohei Ohtani, the Angels are still possibly a fourth place, fifth place team. So I
It's
don't
the old adage. And listen, Ohtani, we know we beat this dead horse every time. Ohtani's done special things. We understand that he's doing things that nobody's ever done in a baseball field before, but that does not mean that you are the most valuable player, let alone in baseball, in your league. And in fact, I don't even think if he was in the same league as Goldschmidt, he'd beat out Goldschmidt.
Correct.
The old adage is I can win with you or without you. I can lose with you or without you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and to me, the Angels are in the same exact position they are with or without Ohtani. If you take Judge off the Yankees might be a 500 team this year. I mean, that's how significant he has been. So to me, it's clear. I know we're gonna get a couple guys thinking that they're clever and the analytics and all that stuff, but I know it's going to be Judge, and while it might not be unanimous, it's going to be close to unanimous, and at the end of the day, he's going to be the MVP.
Absolutely. I'm with it, Joe. Actually, one of the more agreeable points I had there. But you also did mention the walk year and the fact that Aaron Judge is putting this together going into a contract season. It really has, you could really spark the debate of, is this the greatest walk year in professional team sports history? And it certainly might be. There's a lot of comparisons to Barry Bonds' year with the Pirates. His final year with the Pirates, I believe, was the 1992 season where he hit 34 home runs and hit about, I believe it was 311. And then obviously signed his big contract with the San Francisco Giants. So arguably one of the greatest walk years in professional sports history. Corey, do you agree with that notion?
I mean, I think it certainly is, in my opinion. I mean, this walk year, I said it before, he gambled on himself. He put his life savings on a number in roulette, and he's about to hit that. I mean, absolutely incredible. I think it's the best of all time in terms of a walk season, without a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
And now the question becomes, which team is going to go above and beyond to bring him on board? I thought before the season, when the Yankees offered him that contract right before the season started, I thought it was a very, very fair deal. I actually thought Judge probably should have took the deal. I forget the exact numbers, but wasn't it around like 250 or something million total, that contract that the Yankees offered him before the season started?
They offered him, and this is, again, and this is a generous offer, $230 million over 8 years.
Yep, which was very, very fair at the time. And I was like, wow, all right, I'm impressed you didn't take it, but I probably would have took it. Well, he proved me wrong, and he proved everyone else wrong. And you want to look at the teams that might be a threat to get him. Obviously, I'll start with the Mets being a New York show, and obviously with Steve Cohen, richest owner in baseball. Is it a possibility? Yes. Problem is, I think the Mets have too many things to worry about when it comes to free agency. They're going to lose their entire pitching staff outside of Scherzer and Peterson due to free agency next year. So pitching is definitely the bigger concern. We have to bring back our guy in DeGrom and a few other areas as well. So I don't think the Mets are going to be the ones to get him. You can never count out the Dodgers. I know they got a ton of payroll right there, but they are going to get Price off the books this year, and you can never count him out going to California. I just don't think it's going to be the Dodgers. The team out west that I think it's going to end up being, I know we were talking about this the other day, it's going to be the San Francisco Giants, because they got
Barry Bonds like
whole ton of payroll coming off the books. I know Joe's got a lot of good points too for the Giants there. And the only other team that would even be in the mix, and I really don't see it, is the Red Sox. And the only reason the Red Sox are in that mix is because of the rivalry. But you just let your homegrown talent go in Mookie Betts. Why are you going to go bring someone else's talent in? Right? I mean, so it's a whole different situation. So I don't think the Red Sox are in play. I really do think it will come down to the Giants and the Yankees, and we'll see which of the two teams ends up bringing them.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Mets will be involved, if nothing else, to drive up the price.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of, I feel like Cohen is going to do that a lot. And if nobody matches whatever price he throws out there to Judge, I think he'll be content with signing him and then just finding the payroll somewhere else, maybe offloading a Mark Canha and an Escobar and filling the holes in wherever he can. But my favorite, I've said it since day one, my favorite's the San Francisco Giants. After 2023, starting in 2024, they have $28.5 million in commits and salary. 2025, they have $3.5 million. They have oodles of cash within oodles of cash. And they could give Judge $45 million over 10 years. It won't even make a dent. They have no commits past that. And by the time their top prospects, like Bishop, like the rest of these guys, by the time those guys get into their payment, their big paydays, Judge is going to only have 3 or 4 years left. So for me, it makes total sense for the San Francisco Giants, who haven't had a good outfielder in maybe a decade, because that's how bad their outfield has been. If you look at the stats that the San Francisco Giants are rolling out in the outfield, it is pitiful right now. I mean, they're blowing Jock Peterson, Mike Yastrzemski, Lamonte Wade. I mean, these guys aren't everyday outfielders. I mean, so we're going to see the Giants be heavily involved. Judges from California. I, at the minimum, think that he has a desire to go back there, even though he's willing to stay in the East Coast. I think if everything was equal, he'd probably go out to the West Coast. So,
yep.
It's very possible. And how fitting would it have been if Aaron Judge does find themselves in the San Francisco Giants, black and orange, on opening day when the Yankees host the San Francisco Giants at Yankee Stadium in 2023. That would be a full circle job. I mean, again, we go back to the comparison to Barry Bonds, and Bonds not staying with Pittsburgh, and who would, and taking the big money to go to the San Francisco Giants. So it would be a full circle kind of situation right there. But we'll talk more Aaron Judge over the next few weeks, and obviously next week we'll track like everybody else is. Where he is at with the American League record. Hopefully by next week, he's already broken it. And the ball found my glove at Yankee Stadium when I go to the game on Thursday.
There you go.
I don't even know, guys. Hypothetically speaking, if you're going to that game and you so happen to catch the record-breaking home run, are you turning it in? Are you keeping it? What are you giving it up for? I want to hear it.
You make a deal with Judge, and you get a lot of money, and you get a lot of merchandise in return. Because obviously, I mean, it's such a big part of history, that ball. Judge is going to want it. The Hall of Fame's going to want it. I mean, everyone's going to want it. You could get a lot of money, life-changing money.
I'll put it this way. The best thing that you can ask for in this situation, I want a free playoff strip. That's it. There it is. I want a Judge signed bat. I want a free playoff strip, and I want to hand it to him personally. That would be my request. That's it. You guys can have it. I want to meet them. I want to sign picture with them, and then I want the playoff strip.
You see, listen, I'm not going to be that selfish, though. I'm going to look out for the boys here. I'm going to ask Aaron Judge. First, I want to meet him, and I want to offer him 10 minutes on this very show.
Yeah.
This very show next Monday. If I catch that ball and I see Aaron Judge, I don't want the bats, the signed balls, the playoff strip. I will give you 10 minutes on my show. You need to agree to it and log in to Twitch next Monday, and we'll talk to Aaron Judge as the fill-in host for Tom Watson.
By the way, one thing I want to say, we better pray that the Yankees, Boone, whoever, that he does not approach Friday
I know why.
Without hitting the record or without a chance to break the record. Because if Friday's game is on Apple TV, do you know how much of a disaster that will be if he were to break the record? And Boone should have the sense, and MLB's going to put huge pressure on him because Apple's going to put huge pressure on them, that if he has a chance to break the record, if Boone is smart, he sits him, MLB is going to crucify the Yankees to have him in that lineup because this is their golden child. And this is how much money Apple spent on him. It would be an FU to the league. It would be an FU to Apple and all these streaming bullshit if they sat him on Friday without him breaking the record yet. it would be fantastic, and it would be a big FU to everybody. And it wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't be right to the Yankee fans that can't view the game on
Correct.
Apple TV. I mean, that's just, or Amazon Prime, or wherever it's going to be. So
Correct. Exactly. Because I'd feel terrible for especially the older Yankee fan who doesn't really know what they're doing. I mean, even my mom is not good with technology. And when the Mets are on Apple TV also, she doesn't watch the games. I even tell her, you have Amazon Prime, you have an Apple TV, you could, excuse me, you have an Amazon TV, you could watch it. She still never figures it out. So I feel bad for the older fan who might be missing out on history on that game.
I pray the Yankees do the right thing and spite them. I pray because they deserve every second of it. Every single second.
100%.
Oh, absolutely. Let's hope that's not the case come Friday. And again, let's break the record on Thursday while I'm there. All right, we're gonna move forward. Now we were supposed to have a Chooch's pick of the week today. Thought it was not gonna happen, but then Matt decided he was going to send over a pick. So we actually do have a Chooch's pick of the week.
Yeah.
So with the power of the very faint audio of my cell phone, here is today's Chooch's pick of the week.
What's up, ESB crew? Chooch is back with Chooch's pick of the week. Season's winding down. We're in the final month, and starting tomorrow, we have a 3-game set in the AL Central between the Guardians and the White Sox. The White Sox have 4 games back. They play a 3-game set this week. I think the White Sox are going to sweep the Guardians and make it a 1-game lead for the Guardians in the Central. What do you guys think?
Wow, a lot of some faith here in the White Sox. Who it's let's just say it like this: it's been a disappointing season for the White Sox. A lot of fans had the Sox being a first place in the division, no doubt about it. But they had some injuries that have plagued them. The pitching outside of Dylan Cease has not been as fantastic. Tony La Russa's decision making as a manager has been questionable. Do the White Sox have a shot here to stop the Guardians in their tracks?
I mean, that would be something. On an earlier show, I remember of the 2 central divisions, National League and American League, I said the National League at the time, the Brewers are leading. I said, I still think the Cardinals win that division. They're going to win that by a mile. And I said, while the White Sox were in 3rd place at the time, that they were going to end up being the winners at the end of the year. Well, if that's going to hold true, nothing works better than the sweep. So, Matt, Chooch, I hope you're right. Let's go. I want to be right. I want to get that prediction correct. So I'm going to roll with the Chooch here just for that reason alone.
All right.
Listen, if you in the last 3 years have learned anything, and one of those things that you've learned is not to put your faith in the White Sox, I don't know what to tell you, because I have 0 faith in the White Sox. Listen, the best thing that ironically happened to the White Sox is that Tony La Russa's pacemaker went bad. I mean, it's the truth. Miguel Cairo's done a fantastic job. They've caught fire, but at the end of the day,
oh my God,
they can't. La Russa can't come back. They were under 500 at one point a month ago. They've been a complete and utter disappointment. It started with the manager and La Russa, and right now, if you're a White Sox fan, the last thing you want is La Russa to ever come back. I think it's too little too late. The Guardians have played fantastic baseball. They doubled up the Twins either yesterday or today. I wasn't sure. They're running away with the division, I feel like. The White Sox have started to get hot at the right time. I just don't think enough. I don't think they have enough right now to eclipse the Guardians. I think the Guardians have too much momentum. Ahmed Rosario's been playing good. Jimenez has been playing good. They have an interesting young team, a very athletic young team. I don't love their offense, but I like the fact that they put up such a great fight in that division. And I don't think they're going to let the White Sox walk in there and take that away from them.
I've got the Guardians taking 2 out of 3 in this series. We were in Chicago, and honestly, specifics and looking at some of the probables here, Aaron Savali, who's been a little up and down, I don't think is going to hold that first game together, but the next 2, Guardians got to feel good about Cal Quantrill and Tristan McKenzie, both arguably having breakout seasons for that Guardians rotation, which is very underrated, obviously led by the former Cy Young Award winner and Shane Bieber. Guardians are going to be taking 2 out of 3 here, and with that, on the precipice of cementing them as the AL Central division champions. So I got the Guardians taking 2 out of 3. All right, so make sure to give us a follow at Empire State of Baseball on Instagram. We do have our poll from earlier asking who do you believe is the American League MVP. There's been a unanimous Aaron Judge vote. At this rate, I guess it's not even worth giving Yordan Alvarez and Jose Ramirez some love, because the talk has always been Ohtani or Judge, Ohtani or Judge. Now it should just be Judge. But make sure to give us a follow at Empire State of Baseball on Instagram and at ESP Podcast on Twitter. Corey at Ggory, Junior Pugs at Junior Pugs. And you can give me a follow at Rich J. Rivera. And also, let's throw Tom some love too. Even though Tom is on paternity leave starting today, give him some love at TwoSpill, T Waspel on Twitter. All righty, let's turn it over to Queens, and let's keep the follows going here, Joe. If you missed the last 20 some odd episodes of Tom, and I know Tom's a face to miss, the best place to check him out is
YouTube. We have full episodes of Empire State of Baseball up on our YouTube page. You can like, share, and subscribe. Hit that button every time you view a video. You'll get notified when new videos drop, and you can view them right on your mobile device or on your web browser on your computer, if you still use a computer. So you can view us there. But that will take us right into the Queen's Gambit. Okay, the Mets are still, believe it or not, in the tightest division race, despite having the third best record in baseball behind the Dodgers and the Astros. They lead the Braves by one single game, and this is following the Mets taking 4 out of 4 from the Pirates and sweeping them over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, as per usual, the Phillies do absolutely nothing to help the Mets out and get swept themselves by the Braves. So coming into this week, the Mets' remaining schedule is 3 against Milwaukee, 3 in Oakland, 2 against Miami, the ever most important 3 at Atlanta, and then ending with 3 in Washington. Tonight being a marquee matchup with Corbin Burns going up against Max Scherzer, freshly off the IL. And, oh, by the way, Tyler McGill has also come off the IL for the Mets.
Yep.
Corey, how are we feeling going into this series? And how are we feeling with the slimmest of margins in the division?
Well, I'll tell you what, going into this series, specifically for tonight, I will be closely watching this game because the Mets can actually clinch a playoff berth tonight with a win versus the Brewers. Again, we all know the holy grail in this race is to get the division, especially with the new format. More than ever, you want to get the division. You want to avoid that 3-game set, and you don't want to face the Dodgers in the first round when you can end up facing one of the weaker teams. So you want to win the division, but nonetheless, magic number is at 2. Brewers loss, Mets win, puts it to 0. Who do they play tonight? The Brewers. So Mets could possibly clinch a playoff berth tonight. But the actual race with the Braves, I mean, this is neck and neck. This is a race that has been razor thin, really, since the Braves went on that massive stretch in June and July. And basically, both teams have been pacing each other since then. The Mets did get it back up to a 7.5-game lead when they took 4 of 5 earlier this summer. And then, sure enough, the Braves won the next series versus the Mets. Mets had a little bit of a hiccup, too, over last week. And our quote-unquote easiest part of the schedule, we're 5-5 through it at one point. Luckily, they took the 4 games versus the Pirates to help boost that up a bit. But this is the tightest race in baseball. This series is going to go down to that pivotal 3-game set, which is the second to last season of series of the season. And as a Mets fan, what's my goal? My goal is to get to that series up 4 games, because then what happens? Braves could sweep the Mets, and the series doesn't matter in the sense that the Mets would still control their own destiny, which is the key thing. You go out against Nationals, you sweep that series. It doesn't matter what the Braves do at that point. You clinch the division. Now, I want the division really, really bad. Do I think they're going to be 4 games up at that series? I absolutely do not. I don't see this division lead really getting past about 2 games or so. unless the Braves lose these extra games they have. Now, if you look at both the Mets and the Braves, it's a 1-game lead, but the Mets have played 2 extra games than the Braves to date. So if the Braves win both of those games, and the Mets don't play, obviously, then it becomes a tied lead for the division. You have to assume the Braves are winning those games because they do not lose. So hypothetically, let's say the division's tied. This is going down to that 3-game set.
Oh, yeah.
I really do think who wins that series is going to be the team that ends up winning the division.
100%, Corey. The NL East champion will be decided in that 3-game set. It is the most important 3-game set for either team in the same division. And granted, like, you have to look, and I know Joe is going to talk about it in a few. You have to look ahead at these schedules here for the Braves and the Mets, but I think the most important thing for either team is going to be rotation setup going into that series. And at this rate, Joe, what is the perfect rotation setup for the Mets going into that series in just a week and a half's time?
Currently, the Mets are set up, as long as everybody makes their normal starts on normal rest. The current setup with Scherzer returning tonight is Bassett, DeGrom, and Scherzer in that order for the Braves series, which also means going into Washington, you have Walker, Carrasco, and I believe Walker, Carrasco, and Bassett would be the 3 for Washington, which sets up DeGrom and Scherzer pitch 1 and 2 in whatever playoff series you go into. So the Mets have set, I think that was intentional. I think they intentionally brought back Scherzer tonight to set that up. One thing that the Mets have in their favor right now, the Mets, unless the Braves sweep them in that 3-game series, the Mets own the tiebreaker against the Braves. So if the Mets win 1 game and the division ends in a tie, the Mets will win the division.
Yep.
Which is insanely important this year, considering we do not play a 163rd game to break ties now because of the condensed schedule this year. So the Mets are actually in the better position of the Braves, both from a pitch and setup standpoint, at least on our side. I would assume that unless Fried is going up against Bassett, or we have the advantage in all 3 games, at least in terms of the pitching matchups, because no matter who's going up against DeGrom and Scherzer, you have the advantage. And the Mets have the advantage of having the tiebreaker, only really needing to win 1 game if you can remain in front of the Braves or even with them going into the last series against Washington. So I think the Mets, as long as there's no implosion, as long as there's no breakdown, which I don't think they will. They've fought way, way too hard to let that happen now. I think the Mets are going to be in a good position and have a very, very good chance of winning this division right now.
Yeah, and I think for the Braves' sake, and you mentioned Max Fried, and even him being the ace of the Braves staff and one of the best pitchers in the National League, I don't think bones up to either Jacob deGrom or Max Scherzer. And in following Fried, unless the Braves decide they want to go with some of their crafty veterans, as in Odorizzi or Charlie Morton, they're 2 of their better pitchers of the season, Kyle Wright and Spencer Strider, are unproven in these big game situations.
Correct.
So the Braves are going to be at a disadvantage when it comes to their pitching. They also just had one of the biggest teases of this season with Ozzie Albies coming back off the IL just to go right back on it after fracturing his finger. So that's a tough break for no pun intended. That's a tough break for the Atlanta Braves right there in losing Ozzie Albies. But the Braves are going to fight. The other thing I'm seeing here with the Braves is their upcoming schedule, something I brought up last week. They're facing teams within the National League East Division. And the Phillies are going to give them a fight. We know this. The Phillies are trying to fight for a playoff spot as well. So that's a big matchup for them. And the Nationals, for the Nationals' sake, they're going to go into those games as if this is their World Series. Again, if they have a chance to disrupt a team's potential to crown themselves NL East champions, the Nationals are going to play the hardest they've played all season long, even if it means nothing to their team. So it's going to be a tough road ahead for the Atlanta Braves. It's for me going into it, it's going to be advantage Mets. But we'll see what happens. Only September 30th is only a week and a half away here, boys.
Yep, exactly. And listen, Braves right now against the Nationals tonight. Of course, they're winning because that's all they do is win. They're up 1-0. Early game though against the Nationals, still plenty of time to go. And then you look at the schedule again. I know you were just mentioning the Phillies, the Nationals, the Mets. All of these are NL East opponents, and the Braves do have those 2 additional games on the schedule. So
Yes.
those games are going to fall this Thursday, 22nd. That's their first game versus the Phillies later this week. You hope the Phillies take that game, because if the Phillies take that game and you assume they're going to win the other one, the other game where they play and the Mets do not is next Monday, another series against the Nationals. You assume they're going to win that Nationals game. If they could end up splitting these 2 extra games, you hope the Phillies take one. All of a sudden, that 1-game lead is a true 1-game lead. Right now, I'm considering it a tie because we know the Braves just keep winning. But if they split that, it becomes a true 1-game lead, even money. Joe mentioned a great point, too, that the Mets have the tiebreaker if they could take one of those games. So as long as you win 1 of 3 against that series, plus you have the 1-game lead, you have the tiebreaker, you still control your own destiny going through that last weekend of the season. So at absolute worst, we want to take 1 of 3. I want to get the sweep. I want to bury the team and not even worry about that last weekend of the season. But all I pray is that the filthy Phillies could take one away next weekend, get that extra game out off the books, make it a 1.5-game lead, assuming all holds true between now and then, and go into that series, take at least 1 game. You control your own destiny at that point.
And I will say one thing, and Ballbuster 45 brings up a good point. The Mets do need Marte back, but they need him back healthy. They have to live without him, and they have to make sure that he is 100% ready to go for the playoffs. Listen, we all know the importance of the division. The division is extremely, extremely important, especially for the Mets. You want to avoid the Dodgers side of the bracket until you have to go there, and you don't want to be that first wild card team in there. However, and this is my important point, with the playoff schedule, October 7th, 8th, and 9th are reserved for the wild card games. The division series would then start on the 11th. If the Mets go into a wild card series with DeGrom and Scherzer, and you were to win the first 2 games, which if DeGrom and Scherzer are pitching, I don't care what team they're facing, you can make the assumption that they would have a high probability of winning those games. You would have the 9th and the 10th off before the 11th would start. Bassett or would probably be your game 1 starter, and you could theoretically come back with DeGrom in game 2. It does not disrupt you that bad. And in a 5-game series, it hurts because I don't think DeGrom would then pitch the game 5, but him and Scherzer would pitch 2 and 3 at least. And you could theoretically use DeGrom on short rest in a game 5 out of the bullpen if needed.
Well, Joe, let me ask you, would you worry more about DeGrom and Scherzer getting an extra start or getting extra rest?
No, I want them to start 2 games. I want what ideally in a division series, you want your ace to pitch 2 games. And in the Mets case, you have 2 aces. That means that the opposing team has to face your starters at minimum 3 times and beat them at least once and probably twice to win the series against you. In 7th game, they have to face them twice, which is why it's such an advantage. Why if the Mets get to the CS, the NLCS, it is such a massive advantage because you have to beat DeGrom and Scherzer probably twice in order to win that series. They're going to face you 4 games, and at worst, on when Bassett and either Walker or Carrasco, those are toss-up games. At worst, they have to beat DeGrom and Scherzer at least once or probably twice in those scenarios. So that's why these games are so important, and getting the Mets rotation set up is so important, because for me, I want my ace going twice, because the chances of somebody beating DeGrom twice are minimum to none in a consecutive series.
Yep. No, I definitely agree with that. I mean, you have arguably the best 1-2 punch in baseball. DeGrom versus anybody, I'm taking DeGrom. It doesn't matter. And Scherzer, while he's not the Scherzer of old, I still trust him more than 99% of pitchers in baseball as well. So I'm a big fan of that 1-2 punch. I totally agree with Joe's point. And I want to take another look at it. Let's assume the worst case scenario where they end up getting the wild card. Basically what's going to happen with the Mets if they finish wild card 1, because there's no way they finish wild card 2. If they get wild card 1, more than likely, and I'm just looking at the current standings, Padres have a half game lead over the Phillies for wild card 2 over wild card 3. If the Mets end up getting the wild card, a big reason is going to be because the Braves ran train through the Phillies in that 4-game set. So more than likely, it's going to be Mets versus the Padres. I'd actually rather the Phillies in that 3-game set.
I would rather the Phillies.
I agree 100%. So you're going to get Mets versus Padres then. And then it gets so interesting because Darvish, he's kind of owned the Mets a little bit in his career if you look at the lifetime numbers of Darvish versus the Mets. So Padres scare me a little bit more than the Phillies for sure. But again, none of that conversation means anything if the Mets just continue to win. You control your own destiny at this point. Just keep doing what you're doing. Keep pace with the Braves. And think about from a Braves fan standpoint, as hot as your team has been since June, again, we're talking about a record pace for this Braves team. In all of that time, they led once, and it was a half-game lead, which was immediately evaporated the next day out. So all of that effort, where to get the Braves, you're still a game behind the division. I mean, in some instances, that's got to feel a little bit deflating as a Braves fan, but that division's really a coin flip right now. But go Mets. I think we're going to get it. It's going to be close, though.
I love the fan who just came out there. Oh, go Mets. Yeah,
100%.
Breaking it all down. Yeah, let's go Mets.
Yeah.
We'll get more into it, though. Possibly next week or the following week. We're going to get into a full playoff bracket prediction. Once things are kind of more settled and where we feel, okay, now this is how it's going to end. It might take the full season to get there, and I think it will, especially with this race between the Mets and the Atlanta Braves. But we'll get into a full MLB playoff prediction suite within the next few episodes, definitely. So a lot to discuss there. And Corey, you could take the floor on this one because after, with all the craziness happening in MLB and even the crazy announcement happened tonight, Tom Waspel going on paternity leave.
Yeah.
What's the best way for our fans to stay tuned on all the news and latest with ESP?
Listen, the best way to follow us on Instagram. We mentioned before we had a nice poll on Instagram with Judge, unanimous leader in that poll for the MVP. If you want to vote on that poll and future polls, follow us on Instagram at Empire State of Baseball. You could also follow us on Twitter at ESB Podcast and subscribe to Twitch and YouTube, especially Twitch. You will get that alert once we go live, so tune in. And again, I mentioned before, the Mets could clinch the playoffs tonight. And while the division is the crown jewel and what we really want, if they happen to clinch the playoff berth tonight, maybe I'll do a live appearance on Twitter a little later this evening. So we'll see what happens there. But again, follow us on all platforms, especially Twitch, to get that live update.
Absolutely. And we're going to have some special announcements within the next couple of weeks. One pertaining to the future of our show. Obviously, our season is the Major League Baseball season is coming to the end. Playoffs is about to begin. So we're going to answer the question of what's going to happen to ESP in the offseason. We'll get there. Just stay tuned with us next week. And then we got to figure out, boys, if we're going to fill a fourth seat here on ESP while Tom's on leave. Maybe some special guest appearances. We don't know, but we'll have all that news for you in the coming weeks. All right, boys, let's finish off tonight's show with Empire Enigma. It's been a while since we did this segment. This is our baseball trivia question of the night. And last time we did a Mets-related question. So tonight we'll flip it to the Bronx. It's a Yankees-related question. And, of course, it wouldn't be Yankee talk without Aaron Judge, right? So there are two players in New York Yankees history who have won the batting Triple Crown and one player who won the pitching Triple Crown. Who are the three players?
Right off rip,
Gehrig is one.
Mantle is one of the batting Triple Crowns in 56.
So those two are the batting Triple Crowns, which obviously I think that was the easiest part of the
There we
question.
go. Good teamwork.
What gets difficult is who's the pitching Triple Crown?
Ooh. Trying to think here.
It's probably somebody obscure My first guess would be Guidry, just because of that great season they had in what was
Guidry
it,
is a very good guess. It's not the answer. And I also sat
in
back and I could have placed
78.
money on it that would have been the first guess out there because Guidry's 1978 is just unbelievable, but he did not win the pitching triple crown that year.
Okay.
But yes, Gehrig, of course, won his triple crown in 1934, batted .363 with 49 home runs, 166 RBI. The other you just mentioned, Mickey Mantle, which we've discussed at length on this show when we did our player draft back in July 1956. Triple crown winner then, the AL MVP, of course. But we are now trying to figure out who was the pitching triple crown for the New York Yankees. Mikey Pars guessed Whitey Ford. It is not Whitey Ford.
That was going to be my guess too.
Tom Waspel really going back here. Jack Cheesebro or Chessbro. It's not him.
Jesus, does he even count as a Yankee?
No. So John went Babe Ruth. He was like sneaky, but no, not Babe Ruth. This was a legitimate. He played for the Yankees, and I'll throw this one.
Not Catfish Hunter, is it?
It's not Catfish Hunter, Tom. It's not Red Ruffing. This guy, by the way, this is incredible. Not only was he pitching triple crown for the Yankees, he did it twice for the Yankees.
Ooh. Wow.
2 times.
Twice for the Yankees. Well, I was going to make a wild guess.
It's got to be pre a live ball.
I don't know if you guys look in the chat. We have a correct guess in the chat.
Oh.
I am intentionally not looking.
So Joe Corey, I'm going to give you another few seconds.
I was going to say Sabathia until you said that. I know once you said the second stat, I was like, oh, well, that's definitely not Sabathia. But I figure Sabathia has probably led them in a few categories, but I don't think he ever got the triple. He might have led in 2.
We might have heard about that.
Yeah.
He lived in his era, but not CC. Joe?
Come
on, Joe. You're a huge Yankee fan, man.
Yeah.
I know you know the answer.
Lefty Gomez?
It is Lefty Gomez. That is the correct answers. Lou Gehrig, Mickey Mantle, and Lefty Gomez, who did it twice. Unbelievable.
I was going to say Spud Chandler. I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah, 1934, 2.33 ERA, went 26-5. Oh, those were the days. 26-5 on the season, and struck out 158. And then just 3 seasons later in 1937, 21-11, a 2.33, struck out 194 batters. Lefty Gomez was correct. Tom, great job. Excellent day. We're going to crown him. And John thinks he cheated.
Look at that. You know what? I got to tell you what, though. I love Tom. Look at the dedication. The guy just became a father today, and he's
in one arm, the keyboard in the other.
Chat. He is bombing the chat now.
Bombing the chat.
Our most active user. I mean, bombing in the sense that he's just aerating it. He's boom, boom, boom.
Well, he's used to bombing on the show. So
oh no. Well, I didn't say that. You did. But no, Tom, congratulations again. Love the activity for you out there today. But listen. Next week, will there be someone? I mean, or are we going to roll with a threesome? I love threesomes. Threesomes are great. But for right now, we're going to see. Maybe there's going to be another guy out there or gal to join us next week and make it really interesting. But we'll see what happens. We got a lot more to come. Joe, what do you guys say for tonight?
Go Mets. Burns and Scherzer going today. I had a good week in fantasy football, much to Corey's expense.
Yes. It was a rough one for me.
But quick stat of the day.
Oh, God.
Yesterday was the first time since September 27, 2009. The Mets, Yankees, Jets, and Giants all won in the same day.
Yes, that's right.
Wow.
All run in the same day.
Incredible.
And even better stat, come the end of October, we have a chance that the Mets, Yankees, Jets, and Giants, and Rangers, and Knicks, and Devils, and Islanders can all win in the same day.
How about that?
I mean, it's just amazing that they all play on the same day. That's really cool. But
actually, I don't know
that's
about the
insane.
hockey team.
4
I pulled that
teams.
one out of my rear, but that's not the point.
4 professional sports teams that never won a game on the same day since 2009. And if I got to ask you guys too, before we send us off the air, which professional sport team do we blame the most for having those long 10, 11, 12 years of not winning all at once?
The Jets.
Jets.
The Jets.
Listen, which championship do I want more? I want the Mets more. But the Jets make us suffer more.
Correct. Yeah. The Mets, at least every few years, you get a run. I mean, you look back at the last 2 decades with the Mets. All right, you had a good run, 2015, 2016. 05, 06, 07, 08 were fun seasons, even though 2 of them ended terribly. 2000, you made it to the World Series. But the Jets, I mean, you got nothing. I don't know if I'll ever see them in the Super Bowl. We'll see what happens. But yeah, listen, I'm grateful for all the teams, especially Nick Chubb, for running into the end zone and not running down the clock and giving the Jets a shot at that comeback. So thank you, Nicholas Chubb.
And the Giants are 2-0.
Yeah, how about that?
Football. Yeah, Empire State football. Love it.
The Knicks do not play on a Sunday in October.
Oh, that's a shame.
So but I believe, just real quick.
Joe with
the Rangers do. So if the Mets and Yankees were to be in the respective CSs on October 25th, the Rangers will play, and you will have a chance to have at least 5 New York teams win on the same day.
Okay. Wild stuff there. We look forward to it and more. And obviously, thank you guys for all staying with us here and joining us on the show. It might be a little bit of an early exit for us. I guess this is what Tom's dialogue takes us to. You know, we can actually exit the show on time or even earlier. Corey, Joe, start with Corey. Anybody you want to thank, shout out here on our show while we close out?
No formal thank you for me. Just a congratulations to the Waspel family. Congratulations again.
Absolutely. Tom? Joe? Oh, I'm not over it yet.
Shout out. Wednesday will be the anniversary of when Mike Piazza hit his famous home run, maybe the most famous home run in New York history after 9/11. Home run I remember well. My mother used to work across the street from the World Trade Center. That was one of the best family moments we ever had in my household, watching that game. And I think my mother, for the first time after watching the planes hit the buildings, knew that things were going to be okay. So that's my shout out, my thank you for the day. That was a important time in all our lives and an important time for my family growing up watching baseball. And that's part of why I love this game so much. So
it was such an unspeakable time for the city. And when Major League Baseball kind of brought people back to the ballpark to say, all right, you know, life is going to move on. This is tough, but you know, let's find let's find a common ground to get together and just enjoy life for what it is. It was something else that Piazza hit that home run in that big game, and then the Yankees to go on their run. Unfortunately losing to the Diamondbacks in the 0-1 series. Such a crazy time for Major League Baseball, but I think Major League Baseball helped us kind of like bring us back to good times there. So good stuff. Great show tonight, guys. We'll see you all here next week. Again, 7 p.m. Eastern time, right here on Twitch for the 3 of us and all of you. Take care.